The doorbell rang at 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, right in the middle of folding my grandson's tiny superhero shirts. I remember the exact time because I'd been watching the clock, knowing I had exactly 13 minutes before I needed to pick up Emma and Jackson from soccer practice. Lauren hadn't answered my 3 texts asking if she could get them herself today. She never did. I wasn't expecting anyone. Nobody ever just dropped by to see me. When I opened the door, a man in an expensive charcoal suit stood on my porch, holding a leather briefcase that probably cost more than my monthly pension. He looked about 45, with silver-rimmed glasses and the kind of confident posture that comes from years of delivering important news. "Mrs. Margaret Anderson?" he asked. "Yes?" My heart did that little flutter it always does when strangers show up unannounced. Was something wrong? Had one of the kids gotten into trouble? "My name is David Harrison. I'm an attorney from Morrison & Wells in Boston." He pulled out a business card with embossed gold lettering. "May I come in? I have some rather urgent matters to discuss with you regarding an inheritance." I actually laughed. Not a happy laugh, more like the sound you make when someone tells a joke that doesn't quite land. "I think you have the wrong Margaret Anderson. Nobody in my family has money to leave anyone." "Mrs. Anderson, I assure you I have the correct address. This concerns the estate of Edward Chen. He passed away 3 weeks ago, and you're named as the primary beneficiary." Edward Chen. The name hit me like cold water. I hadn't heard it spoken aloud in over 30 years. My hand gripped the doorframe. I don't. The words tangled in my throat. "Perhaps we should sit down," Mr. Harrison said gently. I let him in, my mind spinning. Edward Chen. God, I hadn't let myself think about that name in decades. I'd buried it so deep I'd almost convinced myself it belonged to a different person, a different life. Mr. Harrison sat on my worn couch, the same one Robert and I bought at a clearance sale in 1998. I perched on the edge of my recliner, still holding one of Jackson's shirts. "Mrs. Anderson, are you all right? Would you like some water?" "I'm fine," I lied. Edward Chen. I knew him a very long time ago, but I can't imagine why he'd. "Mr. Chen left very specific instructions. You are the sole beneficiary of his entire estate." He opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. "This includes his primary residence in Beacon Hill, a vacation property in the Berkshires, investment portfolios, savings accounts, and his shares in Chen Holdings, the pharmaceutical research company he founded. There's also a private foundation." The room felt smaller. "I don't understand. We haven't spoken in over 30 years. Why would he?" "The estate is valued at approximately $47 million. I actually stopped breathing for a moment. "I'm sorry, did you say million?" "Yes, ma'am. 47 million. Obviously, there will be estate taxes and legal fees, but the bulk of the estate will transfer to you once we complete probate." I sat there, that little superhero shirt still clutched in my hands, trying to process what he was saying. $47 million. It was absurd. It was impossible. People like me didn't inherit $47 million. People like me inherited wedding china nobody wanted and costume jewelry from great aunts. "Mr. Chen also left these for you." Harrison pulled out a bundle of envelopes, tied with a faded blue ribbon. He specified these were to be delivered directly into your hands, to be read privately. I recognized Edward's handwriting on the top envelope immediately, even after all these years. The same precise, elegant script. My phone buzzed. A text from Lauren. "Mom, where are you? You were supposed to get the kids 10 minutes ago. They're waiting." "I'm so sorry," I said, standing up too quickly. "I have to pick up my grandchildren. This is all. It's too much. I can't process this right now." "Of course, I understand this is overwhelming." Mr. Harrison stood, pulling out another card. "This is my direct line. Call me when you're ready to discuss next steps." We'll need to begin probate proceedings within the next few weeks. He left the documents on my coffee table, neat stacks of legal papers that represented more money than I'd ever imagined having. The letters said on top, Edward's handwriting calling to me across 3 decades, but I didn't have time to think about it. I was already 12 minutes late. Let me tell you what my life looked like before that Tuesday. I woke up every morning at 5:30 a.m. in the same 3-bedroom ranch house where Robert and I raised our kids. The mortgage was paid off, one of the few financial gifts Robert's life insurance left me when he died of a heart attack at 52. I'd kept his urn on the bedroom dresser for 12 years now. Sometimes I still said good morning to it. By a.m., I was usually at Lauren's house, 3 miles away, letting myself in with the spare key she'd given me. Not because she wanted me to feel welcome, but because it was easier than getting up to unlock the door. I'd make breakfast for Emma and Jackson before school: pancakes, oatmeal, eggs, whatever they wanted. Lauren would drift down around 7:15, already on her phone, pour herself coffee I'd made, and head back upstairs to get ready for her job at the marketing firm. "Thanks, Mom," she'd call out without looking up from her screen. Her husband, Derek, usually left before I arrived. I don't think we'd had an actual conversation into years. After dropping the kids at school, I'd go to Brian's house. My oldest son lived in a nicer neighborhood, had 2 kids of his own, Sophie 7 and Michael 5, and a wife named Kristen who treated me like I was the hired help she didn't have to pay. "Oh good, you're here," she'd say, already in her workout clothes. "Can you watch the kids? I have pilots, then lunch with the girls. I'll be back around 3. "No please, no if you're not busy." Just the assumption that of course I'd rearrange my entire day around her schedule. I'd watch Sophie and Michael, make them lunch, help with homework, clean up their playroom while they watched TV. Kristen would come home, glance around and say, "The kids really need to learn to pick up after themselves," as if I was the one making the mess. 3 days a week, I worked at Harbor Gifts, a little tourist shop downtown. It paid $13.50 an hour. I'd been there for 8 years. My boss, Carol, was nice enough, but the work was mind-numbing, ringing up keychains and sweatshirts that said Cape Cod in curly letters. The money helped. Not much, but enough to cover groceries and utilities and the occasional emergency. Robert's life insurance and pension gave me about $2,100 a month. I lived carefully, store brand everything. Heat kept at 65 in winter. No cable TV. My kids knew I lived modestly. They just didn't care. "Mom, can you lend me $2,000? Lauren asked last Christmas, calling while I was putting up my little artificial tree, the one I'd bought at CVS for $39.99. Derek's bonus got delayed and we really need to pay off the credit card. I'd lent her the money. She'd never paid it back. When I gently mentioned it 3 months later, she got defensive. "God, Mom, I didn't know you were keeping track. I didn't realize you needed it that badly. I thought you were fine." I was fine. I was always fine. That's what I'd trained them to believe. Then there was Todd, my youngest, 29 years old, living in my basement for just a few months that had stretched into 3 years. He worked part-time at a gym, played video games until a.m., and contributed exactly $0 to household expenses. "I'm getting my personal training certification, Mom," he'd say when I suggested maybe he could help with groceries. "Once I get that, everything's gonna change. I just need a little more time." 3 years of a little more time. But what hurt most wasn't the money. It was the invisibility. At Thanksgiving, I'd spend 2 days cooking turkey, stuffing, 3 kinds of pie, homemade rolls. 20 people would come to my house, eat until they couldn't move, and leave the dishes stacked in my kitchen. They'd gather in the living room, laughing and talking, while I cleaned. If I joined them, the conversation would shift around me like I was a piece of furniture. Last year, Brian talked for 20 minutes about a promotion at work. Everyone congratulated him, asked questions, made a big deal about it. I mentioned I'd been asked to manage the Harbor Gifts inventory, a small thing, but it mattered to me. That's nice, Mom, Lauren said, already turning back to her phone. No one asked a single follow-up question. My birthday was in April. This past year, I turned 58. Lauren texted me at PM. Happy birthday, Mom. Sorry so late, crazy day. Brian called while driving, told me happy birthday, then spent 10 minutes complaining about Kristen's mother. Todd came upstairs from the basement at PM, said, "Oh yeah, happy birthday," and went back down. No card, no cake, no dinner. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself I was being too sensitive. They were busy with their own lives. This was just how adult families worked. But late at night, alone in my house, I'd wonder, when did I become invisible? When did I stop being a person and become just a function? The free babysitter, the emergency bank, the holiday caterer. When did I become someone so easy to forget? I picked up Emma and Jackson 17 minutes late. They were the last kids waiting, sitting on the curb with their soccer bags, looking annoyed. "Grandma, you're so late," Emma said, climbing into my old Honda Civic. "Coach already left." "I'm sorry, sweetie. Something came up." "Mom's gonna be mad," Jackson said matter-of-factly. He was right. My phone rang before we even left the parking lot. "Mom, where were you? Do you have any idea how embarrassing it is when my kids are the last ones picked up?" "Again?" "Lauren, I'm sorry. Something unexpected. I texted you 3 times. You said you'd get them at 3:45. "I know, but I have a really important meeting tomorrow and I needed to prep tonight, but instead I had to leave work early to figure out why you weren't answering. I rely on you, Mom." There it was, the thing that always made me fold. I rely on you. It won't happen again, I said quietly. It better not. Can you still take them tomorrow? I have back-to-back calls all afternoon. Yes, of course. Okay, thanks. She hung up without saying goodbye. I drove Emma and Jackson home, made them snacks, helped with homework, and stayed until Lauren got home at 6:30. She breezed in with takeout Thai food enough for 3. "Thanks, Mom. See you tomorrow." I wasn't invited to stay for dinner. I got home at 7:15. Todd was in the kitchen, eating cereal straight from the box. "Hey, Mom, what's for dinner?" I looked at my 29-year-old son, standing in my kitchen in sweatpants and a stained t-shirt, expecting me to cook for him after I'd spent the entire day taking care of other people. For the first time in years, something inside me cracked. "I don't know, Todd." "What are you making for dinner?" He looked genuinely confused. "Huh? Never mind. I was too tired to push it. There's leftover chicken in the fridge." I went to my bedroom, closed the door, and sat on the edge of the bed. The letters from Edward Chen sat on my nightstand, where I'd put them before rushing out for school pickup. 5 envelopes, tied with that faded blue ribbon. My hands shook as I untied it. The first envelope was marked "Read First" in Edward's precise handwriting. "My dearest Margaret, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry I didn't reach out while I still had time. There are reasons, complicated ones, but mostly, I was a coward. I told myself I was respecting your choice, respecting the life you built. But truthfully, I was afraid. Afraid you'd forgotten me. Afraid you'd regret what we had. Afraid that opening that door after so many years would only bring you pain. But I never forgot you. Not for a single day in 33 years. You were the most brilliant person I ever knew, Margaret. The most talented, the most passionate. What you gave up to have a family, to be a wife and mother, I understood it, but it broke my heart. Not because you chose them over our work, but because I knew the world would lose something irreplaceable. I built everything on the foundation of what we discovered together. Every patent, every breakthrough, every dollar Chen Holdings ever earned, it exists because of those 3 years in that cramped laboratory, working until dawn, believing we could change the world. We did change it, but you never got credit. You walked away before any of it mattered, before anyone knew our names. This inheritance isn't charity. It's what you earned, what you deserved all along. I'm leaving you everything because it was always partly yours. I'm leaving you everything because maybe, in whatever time you have left, you can finally live the life you sacrificed. I'm leaving you everything because I loved you then, and I love you still. Read the other letters when you're ready. They'll explain everything: our work, what happened after you left, why I never married, why I never stopped hoping I'd find a way back to you. Live, Margaret. Finally, truly live. Yours always, Edward. I read it 3 times, tears streaming down my face. Edward Chen. 33 years ago, I was a Margaret Anderson, invisible grandmother and part-time gift shop employee. I was Dr. Margaret Wells, biochemist, researcher, and the youngest person ever awarded a Fulbright Fellowship to study cellular regeneration at MIT. I was someone completely different, and I'd buried her so deep, I'd almost convinced myself she never existed. But she did exist, and Edward Chen remembered her. What I didn't know yet, what those remaining 4 letters would reveal, was that the woman I'd been was worth $47 million. And my family was about to find out that the invisible woman they'd ignored for 20 years was actually someone they never knew at all. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my bedroom until m, reading and rereading Edward's letter, letting memories I'd locked away for 3 decades flood back. MIT, 1989. I was 25 years old with a brand new doctorate and a fellowship that paid barely enough to cover rent in a terrible apartment I shared with 2 other grad students. But I didn't care about the money or the cramped living space. I cared about the work. The research lab was my sanctuary. 14-hour days felt like minutes when I was lost in the microscope, watching cellular structures react to the compounds we designed. Edward was 35 years older, already building a reputation as a brilliant researcher. We were assigned to the same project studying how certain proteins could potentially slow cellular aging. Everyone said it was impossible, that we were chasing science fiction. We proved them wrong. Those 3 years were the most alive I've ever felt. Edward and I worked like we shared one brain. We'd argue about molecular structures until midnight, survive on coffee and vending machine sandwiches, and then, suddenly, we'd have a breakthrough that made us feel like we'd touched something divine. We were close to something revolutionary. The early tests were promising, incredibly promising. We'd started documenting everything, preparing for our first major publication. And then I met Robert. He was a friend of a friend, worked in construction, knew nothing about science. He was handsome in a simple, uncomplicated way. Sweet, steady, normal. After years of living inside my own head, Robert felt like fresh air. We dated for 6 months. He proposed on a beach in Rhode Island, with a modest ring he'd saved for months to buy. I said yes without thinking too hard about what I was giving up. Edward was devastated. Not because we were involved romantically, we weren't, despite what people assumed, but because he knew what my decision meant. "You're going to walk away from this?" he asked, the night I told him I was leaving the program to get married. "Maggie, we're 6 months from a breakthrough. Maybe less. This work, what we're doing, it's bigger than both of us." "I know," I said, "but I want a family, Edward. I want a normal life. I want kids and Sunday dinners and a house with a backyard. I've spent my whole life in laboratories. I want something else." "You can have both." "No," I said firmly. "I can't. Not really. Not the way I want to be a mother. I've seen what happens to women who try to do both in this field. They're always half present everywhere. I don't want to be half present for my children." I left MIT 3 weeks later. Edward and I promised to stay in touch, but we both knew we wouldn't. The work was too painful a reminder of what we'd almost achieved together. Robert and I got married in a small ceremony. I got pregnant with Brian 4 months later. We moved to Cape Cod, bought the ranch house, and I became a full-time mother. I told myself I was happy, and I was mostly. The kids were wonderful. Robert was a good husband. We had a simple, comfortable life, but sometimes late at night, I'd think about cellular structures and protein chains and wonder what Edward had discovered without me. I never looked him up, never Googled his name, never wanted to know. Now I knew. Chen Holdings, pharmaceutical research, $47 million. He'd finished the work, without me. And it had been worth a fortune. I finally fell asleep around AM and woke at 6:30 to my alarm, groggy and disoriented. For a moment, I forgot about everything: the lawyer, the letters, the money. Then it all crashed back. I had to tell my family. But how do you explain something like this? How do you tell your children that you used to be someone completely different than the mother they knew? I decided to wait. First, I needed to read the rest of Edward's letters. I needed to understand the full story before I could explain it to anyone else. But I didn't get that choice. At M, while I was watching Sophie and Michael at Brian's house, my phone rang. Unknown number. Mrs. Anderson? This is Jessica Kim from the Boston Herald. I'm calling about the Chen estate. Do you have any comment on your inheritance? My stomach dropped. How did you? Estate filings are public record, ma'am. Our business reporter noticed the filing this morning. We're running a story about Mr. Chen's death and the surprising heir to his fortune. Can you tell us about your relationship with him? No comment, I said, my voice shaking. Please don't. Were you aware of the size of the estate? Did you know Mr. Chen had named you as beneficiary? I have to go. I hung up. My phone immediately rang again. Different number. Then another. Then another. Reporters, all of them asking the same questions. How did they find out so fast? I turned off my phone, my hands trembling. This was supposed to be private. I wasn't ready for this. I hadn't even told my own kids yet, but apparently the decision had been made for me. Brian called me 27 times while my phone was off. When I finally turned it back on at PM, my voicemail was full. Mom, what the hell is going on? Someone from Brian's office said they saw your name in the business section. Call me back right now. That was Lauren. Mom, is it true? Please tell me it's true. Call me as soon as you get this. That was Brian, sounding more excited than I'd heard him in years. Yo, Mom, someone tagged you in a Facebook post about some rich dude dying? What's that about? Todd, of course, found out via social media. I sat in my car in Brian's driveway, knowing I couldn't avoid this anymore. I called Brian first. Mom, finally, what is going on? Kristen's cousin works at a law firm and she said she saw a filing that you inherited like $50 million from some pharmaceutical guy. Please tell me that's not true because we're about to have a heart attack over here. It's complicated, I said. Is it true? Yes, mostly. The number's not quite 50, but holy shit, Mom. I heard him yelling to Kristen. It's true. It's actually true. Brian, listen, I need to explain. This is insane. This is absolutely insane. Who was this guy? How did you know him? Why didn't you tell us? I knew him a long time ago. Before I married your father, we worked together at MIT. Silence. Then, you worked at MIT? Yes, I was a researcher there. Before you were born. You, what? Mom, you worked at a gift shop. Now I do, but before I had you kids, I had a doctorate in biochemistry. I was doing cellular research. Another long silence. You have a doctorate? Like a PhD? Yes. Mom, what the actual fuck? Sorry, but WHAT. I'd never heard Brian swear at me before. He was too shocked for politeness. It was a different life, I said quietly. A long time ago. And this Edward Chen guy was my research partner. We were close. We made some important discoveries together. Then I left to marry your father and start a family. Edward continued the work, built a company, and apparently, he never forgot me. This is insane. This is literally insane. Does Laura know? I'm going to call her next. Mom, we need to talk about this. Like, really talk. Can you come over tonight? Kristen's already losing her mind. She's looking up the company value and estate taxes and just come over. Please. Okay, I'll be there at 7. I hung up and immediately called Lauren. She picked up on the first ring. Mom, tell me everything. Now, I went through the story again. MIT, Edward, the research, leaving it all behind. You had a PhD from MIT? Lauren sounded like I'd told her I used to be an astronaut. Yes, and you just gave it up to be a housewife? The way she said housewife stung. I gave it up to be your mother, I said quietly. Right, okay, but Mom, this is huge, like, life-changing huge. $47 million. Do you understand what this means? I'm still processing it myself. We need to talk about this as a family. Tonight? Can you come to my house? I'll order dinner. Derek's going to freak out when I tell him. I already promised Brian I'd go there at 7. Then come here at 5. We need to discuss this before you talk to Brian. There are going to be a lot of decisions to make, and we should be on the same page. Something in her tone made my stomach tighten. What kind of decisions? Mom, come on. You're 58 years old. You've never managed serious money before. You're going to need help. Financial advisors, lawyers, tax attorneys. Derek has connections. His firm handles estates. We just want to make sure you don't make any mistakes. I haven't even accepted the inheritance yet. Why wouldn't you accept it? Mom, this is $47 million. You have to accept it. Lauren, I need time to think. What's there to think about? This is the opportunity of a lifetime. Our lives could completely change. Our lives, not my life. Our lives. I'll come by at 5, I said. But Lauren, I need you to understand this money is mine, not ours. Mine. I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet. Of course it's yours, Mom. Nobody's saying otherwise. We just want to help. I showed up at Lauren's house at 4:55 p.m. Derek's BMW was already in the driveway, which was odd since he usually didn't get home until after 7. Lauren opened the door before I could knock, practically vibrating with energy. Come in, come in. Derek left work early. He's been researching everything about Chen Holdings. Mom, do you have any idea how successful that company is? Derek was in the living room, laptop open, papers spread across the coffee table. He stood when I entered the first time he'd done that in probably 5 years. Margaret, this is incredible news. Absolutely incredible. He actually hugged me. Please, sit down. I've put together some preliminary information. I sat on their expensive leather couch while Derek pulled up a PowerPoint presentation. A PowerPoint. He'd made a presentation about my inheritance. So, Chen Holdings went public in 2003, he began. The IPO was massively successful. The company's primary products are based on cellular regeneration research, anti-aging treatments, tissue repair therapies. Their flagship drug, Regenesol, is used in cancer treatment recovery. It's worth billions. He clicked to the next slide, which showed a breakdown of Edward's assets. The estate includes approximately $28 million in liquid asset stocks, bonds, cash. The Beacon Hill property is worth about $5 million. The Berkshires house, another $2 million. Then there are the shares in Chen Holdings, approximately 12% of the company, valued at roughly $8 million. Total estate value, $47.5 million, give or take. He said it so casually, like these numbers were normal. After estate taxes, Massachusetts has a 40% rate on estates this size. You're looking at taking home approximately $28-30 million, depending on various factors. Lauren was watching me with an expression I'd never seen before. Hungry, calculating. The first thing you need to do, Derek continued, is establish a trust. We can help you set that up. Then we need to think about asset allocation, tax optimization, estate planning. Estate planning? I interrupted. Derek, I'm 58, not 90. It's never too early to think about how you want your assets distributed, especially with this amount of money. You have 3 children, 5 grandchildren. You'll want to make sure everyone is taken care of. There it was. Mom, Lauren said, leaning forward. We've been talking, and we think you should let Derek's firm handle everything. They have wealth management services. They can help you invest wisely, minimize taxes, plan for the future. What's their fee? I asked. Derek and Lauren exchanged a glance. It's standard, 1% of assets under management annually. For an estate this size, that's about $300,000 a year, but $300,000. I stood up. You want me to pay you $300,000 a year to manage my money? Not me personally, Mom, Derek said quickly. The firm. And it's worth it. They'll save you more than that in taxes alone. Plus, you don't know anything about managing this kind of wealth. You could make expensive mistakes. So I should just hand it over to you? Not to me, he repeated. To professionals. I looked at Lauren. She was nodding enthusiastically. It makes sense, Mom. You can't handle this alone. Something clicked in my head. A memory from Thanksgiving 3 years ago. Lauren complaining about money, saying Derek's firm was going through a slow period. Derek looking stressed, drinking more than usual. Is Derek's firm struggling? I asked quietly. The room went very still. What? No, why would you? Lauren started. Because $300,000 a year would help a lot if you were having financial problems. Derek's jaw tightened. My firm is fine, Margaret. This isn't about us. This is about making sure you don't squander a fortune because you don't understand high-level financial management. The condescension in his voice was stunning. I may not understand wealth management, I said slowly, but I do understand biochemistry, and cellular structures, and molecular compounds. I think I can figure out how to hire my own financial advisor. I walked toward the door. Mom, wait. Lauren followed me. Don't be like this. We're trying to help. No, you're trying to get a piece of the money before I even have it. That's not fair. We've taken care of you for years. I spun around. Taken care of me? Lauren, I babysit your children for free for days a week. I've lent you thousands of dollars you never paid back. I cook your family dinner twice a week. When have you ever taken care of me? Her face flushed. I didn't mean it like that. Yes, you did. I opened the door. I'll call you when I'm ready to talk. On my terms. I left before she could respond. I drove straight home, ignoring 3 calls from Brian. I needed space. I needed time to think. Todd was in the kitchen when I walked in, making a sandwich. Yo, Mom, is it true you're like super rich now? Where did you hear that? It's all over Facebook. Aunt Diane posted about it. Everyone's talking about it. Of course they were. It's complicated, Todd. Dude, if you got millions, can you help me out? I really need a new car. Mine's about to die, and if I'm gonna build my personal training business, Todd, stop. He looked genuinely surprised. I never said no to my kids. I just found out about this yesterday. I haven't even processed it yet. I'm not making any decisions about money right now. Yeah, but when you do, you'll help me out, right? I mean, I'm your son. The entitlement in his voice was breathtaking. You're 29 years old, Todd. You live in my basement rent-free. You don't contribute to groceries or utilities. You've been here for 3 years. When was the last time you helped me with anything? He stared at me like I was speaking a foreign language. I'm your kid, Mom. I shouldn't have to. You're not a kid. You're an adult. And adults contribute to the households they live in. Wow. Okay. So now that you're rich, you're gonna be like this? I've always been like this, Todd. You just never noticed because I was too tired to fight about it. I went to my bedroom and locked the door. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Brian, Lauren, numbers I didn't recognize. A few old friends I hadn't talked to in years, suddenly very interested in catching up. I turned it off completely. I pulled out Edward's remaining letters and started reading the second one. Dear Margaret, I'm writing these letters over several months. Not sure if I'll ever have the courage to send them. The doctors say I have maybe a year. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. By the time you read this, I'll be gone. I want to tell you what happened after you left MIT. You deserve to know. I continued our research alone for 8 months. It was grueling work without you. You were always the intuitive one, the one who could see patterns I missed. But I pushed forward because I knew we were close. The breakthrough came in March 1990. I was running tests on the protein synthesis we designed, and suddenly everything clicked. The cellular regeneration we theorized had worked, not just in theory, in practice. I spent the next year refining the process, documenting everything, preparing for publication. The paper came out in 1992. It changed everything. I should have listed you as co-author. Our work was equal, but you were gone, living your life with Robert, and I told myself I was protecting you from the spotlight. The truth is, I was angry, hurt that you'd chosen a normal life over our work, so I took sole credit. That was wrong. I've regretted it every day since. The patents that came from our research, they're worth billions now. Chen Holdings built its entire foundation on those discoveries. Every treatment we've developed, every life we've saved, exists because of what we started together. You earned this inheritance, Margaret. Every penny. It's the recognition I should have given you 30 years ago. I'm sorry it took my death to finally give you credit. I sat there, crying, holding a letter from a dead man who was apologizing for stealing credit for work I'd walked away from voluntarily. I'd made my choice. I'd chosen family over career. I'd never regretted it, not really. But reading Edward's words, understanding that the work we'd started together had saved lives, had changed medicine, had been worth billions. A part of me wondered, what if I'd stayed? What if I believed I could have both the career and the family? What if I hadn't been so afraid of being half present that I'd made myself completely absent from the work I loved? There was no way to know. That life was gone. I'd lived a different one. But now, unexpectedly, impossibly, I had a second chance. $47 million worth of second chances. And my family, my children, who I'd sacrificed everything for, only saw it as money they could use. That realization hurt more than anything Edward's letters could tell me. The next morning, I woke up to find my house surrounded by news vans. 3 of them parked on my quiet street, with reporters standing on my lawn, cameras pointed at my windows. My neighbors were outside, staring. Mrs. Chen from next door was talking to a journalist, probably telling them all about quiet Margaret who keeps to herself. I peeked through the curtains, my heart pounding. This was insane. I'd inherited money from someone I knew decades ago, and suddenly I was newsworthy. My phone, which I'd turned back on at 6 a.m., was flooded with messages. 73 texts, 42 missed calls, emails from addresses I didn't recognize, all with subject lines like "Congratulations," "An investment opportunity," and "Your story." I scrolled through the texts. Brian. Mom, the news is outside your house. Don't talk to them. Lauren. Mom, call me now. Derek says you need a PR person. Todd. Dude, this is crazy, lol, you're famous. My sister Janet, who I talk to maybe twice a year. Maggie. I saw the news about your inheritance. We should talk. Family is important. Old coworkers from Harbor Gifts. Former neighbors. People I went to high school with. All of them suddenly very concerned about my well-being and very interested in catching up. There was one text that made my stomach hurt. Unknown number. Mrs. Anderson, I represent several investment firms interested in discussing wealth management. Our minimum client portfolio is $10 million. Please call at your earliest convenience. They were already circling. Like sharks who smelled blood in the water, I called David Harrison, the lawyer. Mr. Harrison, there are reporters outside my house. Yes, I'm sorry about that. Estate filings are public record. Once the Herald ran the story yesterday, it spread quickly. Do you have somewhere else you can stay for a few days? Until the interest dies down? No, I don't really have anywhere to go. What about family? I laughed bitterly. My family is part of the problem. There was a pause. Then, Mrs. Anderson, I know this is overwhelming, but we need to move forward with probate. I need you to come to Boston, meet with me and the estate accountants, sign some paperwork. Can you do that today? With reporters camped outside my house, I can send a car, a private service. They'll pick you up from your back door, take you directly to our office. No cameras. Okay. Yes. Thank you. They'll be there in 2 hours. Pack a bag. You might want to stay in Boston for a few days. We have a hotel relationship for clients who need privacy. After I hung up, I sat on my bed, trying to process how drastically my life had changed in 48 hours. Sunday morning, I was an invisible grandmother folding laundry. Tuesday morning, I was an heiress hiding from news crews. Who was I supposed to be now? I threw some clothes in a duffel bag, practical things. Nothing fancy because I didn't own anything fancy. I grabbed Edward's letters, my laptop, and my phone charger. Todd came upstairs as I was packing. You leaving? For a few days. I have to meet with lawyers in Boston. Cool. Hey, can you leave me some money for groceries? I stopped packing and looked at my son. Really looked at him. 29 years old, unemployed except for a few hours a week at the gym, living in my basement, asking me for grocery money while I was fleeing reporters because I just inherited $47 million. No, I said. What? No. You have a job. You can buy your own groceries. Mom, I only work like 15 hours a week. That barely covers my car insurance and stuff. Then get a second job. His mouth fell open. Are you serious right now? Completely serious. Todd, I've been supporting you for 3 years. That's over. When I get back from Boston, we're going to have a conversation about you finding your own place. You're kicking me out? I'm asking you to be an adult. This is because of the money, isn't it? You're different now. No, Todd, I'm exactly the same. You just never bothered to notice who I actually was. I left him standing there, shocked, and went downstairs to wait for the car. The private car was a black Mercedes with tinted windows. The driver, a professional woman in her 40s, came to my back door. Mrs. Anderson? I'm Carol. We'll go out through your neighbor's yard. They've agreed to let us use their driveway. The reporters won't see you. It felt absurd, sneaking out of my own house like a criminal. But it worked. We pulled onto the street before the news crews even noticed, and by the time they started following, we were already on the highway. The 2-hour drive to Boston gave me time to think. And to read Edward's third letter. Margaret, I want to tell you about the life I lived after you left. I threw myself into work. It was easier than facing how empty everything felt without you in the lab. I worked 16-hour days, published constantly, built Chen Holdings from nothing. The company went public in 2003. I became wealthy beyond anything I'd imagined. I bought houses I barely lived in, attended galas I hated, gave interviews about the future of medicine. Everyone thought I had everything, but I was lonely, Maggie. Profoundly, achingly lonely. I dated occasionally. Even got close to proposing once to a brilliant oncologist named Rachel, but I couldn't do it because she wasn't you. No one was you. I never married, never had children. I told people I was married to my work, and they believed me because it was a convenient story. The truth was simpler and sadder. I loved someone I couldn't have, and I never found a way to love anyone else. I'm not telling you this to make you feel guilty. You made the right choice for yourself. You wanted a family, and from what I've learned about your life, you got one. 3 children, 5 grandchildren, a husband who loved you until he died. You lived the life you wanted. I lived the life I chose too. And it was meaningful. The research saved lives, changed medicine, helped millions of people. I'm proud of that, but I would trade all of it for one more day in that cramped lab with you, arguing about protein structures and drinking bad coffee at a.m. That's the truth I never told you when we had the chance. I was crying when we pulled up to the law offices of Morrison & Wells in downtown Boston. Carol handed me tissues without comment. The office was exactly what you'd expect: glass and steel, expensive art on the walls, receptionists who looked like they'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. David Harrison met me in the lobby. "Mrs. Anderson, thank you for coming. I know this is difficult." He led me to a conference room where 3 other people waited, 2 accountants and another lawyer who specialized in estate tax. For the next 3 hours, they walked me through everything: the properties, the investments, the foundation Edward had set up for medical research, the specific bequests to his few friends, and the university that had given him his start. And then, the biggest surprise, Mr. Chen left detailed instructions about the foundation. Harrison explained. "He wanted you to take over as director. He believed you were the only person who understood the research well enough to guide its future." I stared at him. "Director of a medical research foundation? It's currently funded with $15 million. The board oversees grant distributions to researchers working in cellular regeneration, cancer treatment, and aging research." Mr. Chen chaired it himself until his death. "He wanted you to continue that work. I haven't been in research for 30 years. The role is administrative, not hands-on research. You'd review grant applications, attend quarterly board meetings, make funding decisions. The foundation has a staff that handles day-to-day operations." I thought about that cramped MIT lab, the work Edward and I had done together, the lives that research had saved. "I'll do it," I heard myself say. Harrison smiled. "Excellent. Now, about the properties." By the time we finished, my head was spinning with information about tax implications and property transfers and investment portfolios. Harrison's assistant showed me to the car, which took me to a boutique hotel in Back Bay. The kind of place where rooms cost $600 a night and everyone whispered. I'd never stayed anywhere like it in my life. My room was on the 8th floor, with a view of the Charles River. There was a king-size bed with more pillows than any human needed, a bathroom bigger than my bedroom at home, and a complimentary bottle of wine that probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget. I sat on the edge of the bed and called Brian. "Mom, finally. Where are you?" "Boston, meeting with lawyers." "Are you okay? The reporters left your house around noon, but it was crazy this morning." "I'm fine." "Brian, we need to talk." "Yeah, we do. Listen, I'm sorry about yesterday." Kristen got a little carried away with the whole thing. "We're not trying to take advantage. We're just..." "It's a lot of money, Mom. It's hard not to think about what it could mean for all of us." There it was again. All of us. "Brian, this inheritance is mine. I'm not going to give you a share of it." Silence. Then, "Mom, I wasn't asking for..." "Yes, you were. Maybe not directly, but that's what you were thinking. You and Lauren and Todd. All of you. You're already counting money that isn't yours. That's not fair, isn't it?" Lauren wanted me to pay her husband's firm $300,000 a year to manage my money. Todd asked me for a new car. "You called me 3 times yesterday to discuss plans. None of you have asked me how I'm doing, how I feel about this, what I want." "Okay, you're right. I'm sorry. How are you doing?" The question sounded forced, like he was checking a box. "I'm overwhelmed," I said honestly. "I'm grieving someone I loved a long time ago. I'm trying to figure out who I am now that the world knows I'm not just the woman who works at Harbor Gifts and babysits her grandchildren." "Mom, you're more than that." "We know that. Do you?" "Because for the last 20 years, you've all treated me like I exist to serve you. Free childcare, free cooking, free money when you need it. When's the last time any of you asked about my life, my dreams, what I want?" Another long silence. "I don't know," he admitted quietly. "Exactly. So here's what's going to happen. I'm staying in Boston for a few days. I need space to figure this out. When I come home, things are going to be different. I'm not going to be your free babysitter anymore. I'm not going to lend money that never gets paid back. I'm not going to cook for 20 people and then clean up alone while everyone else relaxes." "Mom, I'm not cutting you off, Brian. I love you, but I'm also not going to let you take advantage of me anymore. Those days are over. We never meant to take advantage of you. Maybe not intentionally, but you did. And I let you because I thought that was what being a good mother meant. But I was wrong. Being a good mother means teaching you to be self-sufficient, to respect other people's time and energy, to appreciate what you have instead of always wanting more. I could hear him breathing on the other end of the line. Okay, he finally said. You're right. I'm sorry. Thank you. Can I ask you something? Of course. This Edward Chen guy, did you love him? The question caught me off guard. Yes, I said quietly. In a different way than I loved your father. But yes, I loved him. Do you regret leaving MIT? Giving up your career? I thought about that for a long time. No, I finally said. I don't regret you, or Lauren or Todd. You three were the best thing I ever made. But I do regret that I felt like I had to choose. That I couldn't figure out a way to be both a scientist and a mother. Women today have more options than I did. I hope your daughters grow up knowing they can be anything they want, not have to choose between career and family. I'll make sure Sophie knows that, Brian said. Mom? Yeah? I'm proud of you. I know I should have said that before, but I'm proud of who you are. And I'm sorry I didn't know about the MIT stuff. That's incredible. It was the most genuine thing he'd said to me in years. Thank you, sweetheart. After we hung up, I ordered room service a Caesar salad and grilled salmon that cost $52 and read Edward's fourth letter. Margaret, I'm dying. The doctors say I have maybe 3 months left. The cancer is everywhere now. I've been thinking about regrets, not the big ones, those are obvious, but the small ones, the daily choices that add up to a life. I regret not calling you after Robert died. I saw the obituary. I wrote you a letter, but I never sent it. I told myself you needed space to grieve, but really, I was afraid. Afraid you'd reject me, afraid too much time had passed. I regret not fighting harder for you to stay at MIT. I should have told you how brilliant you were, how irreplaceable. I should have helped you find a way to have both the career and the family. Instead, I let you go. I told myself I was respecting your choice, but the truth is, I gave up too easily. I regret every year I didn't know your children, every birthday I didn't send a card, every achievement of yours I didn't celebrate. I kept track of you, Maggie. I hope that doesn't sound creepy. I needed to know you were okay, that you were happy. I saw the photos on your daughter's Facebook page. You, surrounded by grandchildren, laughing at a birthday party. You looked happy. Tired, maybe, but happy. That's all I ever wanted for you. I'm leaving you everything because you deserve it, because our work together was the most meaningful thing I ever did, because I loved you then and I love you still, but mostly, I'm leaving it to you because I think you've spent 30 years taking care of everyone else, and maybe finally, someone should take care of you. Live, Margaret. Live big, live loud, live the life you've earned. All my love, Edward. I cried for an hour after reading it. Not for Edward, though I grieved for him too. I cried for myself, for the woman I'd been at 25, so full of passion and promise. For the woman I'd become at 58, so used to being invisible that I'd almost convinced myself I didn't matter. I cried for all the years I'd spent making myself small so my family could be big, and I cried because Edward had really seen me in a way my own children never had. When I was done crying, I took a shower in that enormous bathroom, put on the hotel robe, and ordered a $30 slice of chocolate cake from room service. Then I called my sister Janet. Maggie, I'm so glad you called. I've been worried about you. Jana lived in Florida with her third husband. We weren't close. She'd borrowed $5,000 from me 6 years ago for emergency dental work and never paid it back. I'm fine, Janet. How are you? Oh, you know, same old, same old. But Maggie, this inheritance. I couldn't believe it when I saw the news. $47 million. That's just incredible. It's surreal, I admitted. Listen, I don't want to be presumptuous, but, well, we're sisters, family, and I know you've always been so generous. I was thinking, Now that you have all this money, maybe you could help me out. Rick and I have been struggling with the mortgage, and know what? No, Janet, I'm not giving you money. But I'm your sister. You're my sister who hasn't called me into years except to ask for money. You didn't even send me a birthday card last year. I've been busy, so have I. Janet, I love you, but I'm not your ATM. If you're struggling financially, you need to make your own changes, not wait for me to rescue you. I can't believe you're being like this. Money changes people, I guess. No, I said firmly. Money doesn't change people. It just reveals who they already were. You were always someone who saw me as a resource, not a person. I just never had the courage to say no before. I hung up before she could respond. Then I blocked her number. It felt amazing. Over the next 3 days, I stayed in Boston and learned how to be rich. Harrison introduced me to a financial advisor, a woman named Patricia Chen, no relation to Edward, who specialized in managing inheritances for women. She was professional, smart, and didn't talk down to me the way Derek had. My job, she explained, is to protect your wealth and make it work for you, not to make you feel stupid about money. You're a scientist, you understand complex systems. Wealth management is just a different kind of system. She charged a flat fee, not a percentage, and she actually listened to what I wanted. I don't want to be flashy, I told her. I don't need a mansion or a yacht. I just want security, freedom, the ability to help people without bankrupting myself. Then that's what we'll build, Patricia said. She set me up with a simple structure. Conservative investments that would generate about $1.5 million a year in passive income, more than I could ever spend, but not so much that I'd feel overwhelmed. The houses, I decided to keep the Beacon Hill property and sell the Berkshires estate. The Beacon Hill house was a beautiful brownstone that Edward had meticulously maintained. It felt like honoring his memory to keep it. The foundation would continue its work, with me as director. I'd attend my first board meeting next month. Everything else, the decisions about family, about my future, about who I was going to be, I needed time to figure out. On my third night in Boston, I had dinner with Patricia at a quiet restaurant in the North End. Can I ask you something personal? She said over wine and pasta. Sure. What do you want? Not what your family wants. Not what you think you should want. What do you actually want from this inheritance? I thought about it for a long time. I want to matter, I finally said. For 30 years I've been invisible. I want to be seen. I want my work to mean something. I want to use my brain again, not just my hands. I want to wake up excited about the day instead of dreading another round of free babysitting. Then make that happen, Patricia said simply. You have the resources now. Use them. On Friday morning, I drove back to Cape Cod in my own car. Harrison had arranged to have it brought to Boston. The reporters were gone. My street was quiet again. I pulled into my driveway and sat there for a moment, looking at the ranch house where I'd lived for 30 years. It looked smaller than I remembered. Todd's car was in the driveway. I took a deep breath and went inside. He was in the living room, playing video games. Hey, Mom, you're back. I am. Todd, we need to talk. He paused his game, actually looking nervous. About what you said before I left, I meant it. You need to find your own place. I'll give you 2 months to figure it out. Mom, come on. I can't afford rent on what I make. Then get a better job, or a second job, or both. Todd, you're almost 30. It's time. This is because of the money. You don't need me here anymore, so you're kicking me out. This has nothing to do with money. It has to do with you being an adult. I should have done this years ago. He stood up, angry now. You know what? Fine. I'll leave. But don't come crying to me when you're old and alone and you need help. The threat was meant to hurt me. And maybe, a week ago, it would have. But not anymore. Todd, I'm 58 years old with $47 million and a brownstone in Boston. I'm going to be fine. The question is, are you? He grabbed his jacket and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. I sat on the couch, the same couch where David Harrison had first told me about the inheritance, and felt lighter than I had in years. My phone rang. Lauren, Mom, I heard you're back. Can we talk? About what? About us. About everything. I'm sorry about how I acted. Can I come over? Okay. But Lauren, I need you to understand. I know. Just let me come over, please. She arrived 20 minutes later, without Derek, without the kids. Just her. We sat at my kitchen table, the same table where I'd served countless family dinners, and she looked at me with tears in her eyes. I've been a terrible daughter. I didn't disagree. Mom, I took you for granted. I treated you like you existed to make my life easier. And I'm so sorry. Why now? I asked. Is it because of the money? Honestly, the money made me realize how much I'd been using you. Like, I was planning how to benefit from your inheritance before I even asked how you were doing. That's fucked up. Sorry, but it is. I'd never heard Lauren swear like that. I don't want your money, Mom. Well, I mean, I do. I'm human, but that's not why I'm here. I'm here because I miss you. The real you. Not the free babysitter. Not the emergency bank. You. Do you even know who the real me is? I asked quietly. She looked down at her hands. No, I don't think I do. And that's my fault. I want to know though. If you'll let me. It was the most honest conversation we'd had in years. Okay, I said. We can start there. That night, I read Edward's final letter. The one marked read last. My dearest Margaret, if you're reading this, you've read everything else. You know the whole story now, our work, my regrets, my love for you that never faded. I have one last thing to tell you. When you left MIT, I was devastated, but I understood. You wanted a family, a normal life, and I couldn't give you that. Science was my whole world. I didn't know how to be anything else. You made the brave choice. You chose love and family and the messy, beautiful chaos of a real life. I chose safety. I chose work because it was easier than risking my heart. We both got what we chose. But here's what I learned in these final months, lying in a hospital bed, dying alone. You were right. Family matters more than discoveries. Love matters more than patents. The quiet moments, dinner with people you care about, watching your children grow, holding your grandchildren, those are the real achievements. I saved lives with our research. I'm proud of that. But you created lives. You raised 3 human beings. You loved a man who loved you back. You built something real. That's worth more than any amount of money. So please, don't let this inheritance make you regret your choices. You lived a beautiful life. You just forgot to value it. Use this money to live an even bigger life. Help people. Chase dreams you set aside. Travel, learn, create. But most of all, let people see you. You were never invisible to me, Margaret. You were always the brightest star in my sky. I loved you then. I love you now. I will love you beyond death. Live brilliantly, my darling. You've earned it. Forever yours, Edward. I sat in my bedroom, holding the letters, crying and smiling at the same time. Edward was wrong about one thing. I hadn't lived a beautiful life. I'd lived a small life, a sacrificial life, a life where I made myself invisible so everyone else could shine. But I didn't have to do that anymore. I had resources now, freedom, choices. I had the chance to finally become the woman I was always meant to be, not invisible Margaret, the free babysitter and ATM, but Dr. Margaret Wells Anderson. Scientist, philanthropist, director of a medical research foundation, a woman who mattered. The next morning, I called Harbor Gifts and quit my job. Then I called a real estate agent about selling the ranch house. Then I called Patricia and told her I was moving to Boston. It was time to start living. The real estate agent said my house would sell quickly. Market's hot right now, especially for starter homes in this neighborhood. I'd say 450,000, maybe 475 if we get competitive offers. I bought it with Robert for $87,000 in 1988. Everything felt surreal. Numbers that would have seemed impossible a month ago were now casual conversation topics. But before I could move forward, I had to deal with the past. Specifically, I had to face what I'd actually sacrificed all those years ago and whether it had been worth it. I pulled out my old MIT boxes from the basement. I'd kept them all these years, buried under Christmas decorations and old tax returns, never really looking at them but unable to throw them away. Inside, my dissertation, published papers, lab notebooks filled with my handwriting, photos of me at 25, standing in front of equipment, smiling with that confident, fearless expression I didn't recognize anymore. There was a photo of Edward and me, both in lab coats, holding up a Petri dish like it was the Nobel Prize. We looked so young, so full of possibility. Todd found me in the basement, surrounded by papers. "What's all this?" "My past," I said. "Before you kids. Before your father, when I was Dr. Margaret Wells, biochemist." He picked up my dissertation, which was bound in dark blue leather with gold lettering. "You wrote this?" "I did. It's about cellular protein synthesis and regeneration potential. Took me for years." He flipped through pages dense with formulas and scientific terminology. "I don't understand any of this." "I didn't expect you to. But that's who I was, Todd. That's the person I set aside to raise you." He looked uncomfortable. "Are you saying you regret having us?" "No, I'm saying I regret that I felt like I had to erase myself to be your mother, that I didn't fight harder to be both." "You could have," he said quietly. "Dad would have supported that." "Maybe, but the world was different then. Women in science who had children were seen as less serious, less committed. I saw colleagues lose positions because they got pregnant. I didn't want to fight that battle. I wanted to be fully present for you kids." "And were you present?" The question surprised me. "What do you mean?" "I mean, Mom, you were always there physically, at every school thing, every dinner, every whatever. But were you actually happy? Because I remember you always seeming kind of sad, like you were going through the motions." I stared at my youngest son, realizing he'd seen more than I thought. "No," I admitted. "I wasn't always happy. I loved you three, but I missed my work. I missed using my brain. I miss feeling like I mattered in the world." "You could have gone back after we grew up." By then, I'd been out of research for 20 years. The field had moved on, and honestly, I'd convinced myself I wasn't that person anymore. Todd sat down on an old box. "I've been thinking about what you said, about getting a job and moving out. And, you're right, I've been using you, living here for free, expecting you to take care of me like I'm still a kid. That's not fair." "No, it's not. I got hired at a physical therapy clinic. Full-time. Starts next month. The pay's decent. I can afford a place with a roommate." I looked at him, genuinely surprised. "That's great, Todd." "Yeah, I mean, I should have done it years ago, but I guess I needed you to kick my ass a little." He paused. "I'm sorry, Mom, for taking advantage." "Thank you for saying that. Can I ask you something? What are you going to do now? Like, with all the money and stuff?" I thought about it. "I'm moving to Boston, taking over the foundation Edward left me, getting back into research, in a way, not hands-on work, but guiding it, funding it, making decisions about what projects matter." "That's cool. You'll be good at that." "I hope so." He stood up, looking at the photo of young Margaret in her lab coat. "She looks badass." I laughed. "She was. She still is," Todd said. "You just forgot for a while." Brian invited me to dinner that weekend. Just the two of us without Kristen or the kids. We met at a restaurant near the harbor neutral territory. "Mom, I've been doing a lot of thinking," he started once we'd ordered. "About how we've treated you." "Okay." "Kristen and we took advantage of your generosity. We expected you to babysit whenever we needed, never asked if you had plans, never paid you. We treated you like hired help." "Yes, you did." He winced. "I'm sorry. Really, genuinely sorry. It's not an excuse, but I think we got used to you always being available." We forgot you had your own life. I didn't have my own life, Brian. That was the problem. My entire life revolved around serving you kids and your families. Why didn't you say something? I did, multiple times. You just didn't listen. Or you'd get defensive, make me feel guilty for even bringing it up. He nodded slowly. You're right. I remember you trying to tell me you were tired or you needed a break, and I'd say something like, but you love spending time with the grandkids. Like that made it okay to dump them on you constantly. Exactly. Mom, can I ask you something? And please be honest. Do you even like being a grandmother? Or did we ruin it for you by making it an obligation instead of a joy? That question hit hard. I love Sophie and Michael, I said carefully. I love Emma and Jackson and little Zoe. But no, I don't always like being a grandmother, because it became my entire identity. I wasn't Margaret the person. I was just Grandma, the free childcare. Brian looked pained. I'm so sorry. What I want, I continued, is to have a relationship with my grandchildren that's based on wanting to see them, not being obligated to watch them. I want to take Sophie to museums because she's curious about science. I want to teach Michael about plants because he loves being outside. I want those moments to be special, not just part of a weekly childcare routine. That makes sense. So moving forward, if you want me to watch the kids, you need to ask, not demand, not assume. Ask if I'm available and if I want to. And you need to respect it if I say no, okay. I can do that. And you need to pay for childcare sometimes. Hire a babysitter. Put the kids in after-school programs. Figure it out like every other parent who doesn't have a free grandparent. We can afford it, he admitted. We just got used to not having to. I know. We ate in silence for a while. Then Brian said, can you tell me about MIT? About the research you did? I realized I know nothing about that part of your life. So I told him about cellular regeneration research, about working with Edward, about the breakthrough that led to billions of dollars in medical treatments. Wait, Brian interrupted. The cancer drug Regenesol that's based on your research? Edward's and mine, yes. Mom, that drug saved Uncle Jerry's life. When he had colon cancer 5 years ago, they put him on Regenesol and it helped his recovery. I hadn't known that. So you literally saved my uncle's life. With research you did 40 years ago, Edward saved his life. I walked away before it mattered. But you did the work. You made the discoveries. You just didn't get credit for it. No, I didn't. Brian was quiet for a long moment. I wish I'd known this about you. I wish you'd told us. I tried, a few times. When you kids were teenagers, I'd mention MIT or my research. You'd nod and change the subject. After a while, I stopped trying. Because we made you feel like it didn't matter. Yes, it matters, Mom. You matter, not just as our mother or the kids' grandmother, as a person who did important things, who was brilliant, who still is. I felt tears coming and tried to blink them away. Thank you, I whispered. I'm proud of you, Brian said. I know I should have said that a long time ago, but I'm saying it now. I'm proud of who you are, all of who you are. Lauren was harder. She came to my house a few days later, bringing Emma and Jackson with her. Mom, can you watch them for a bit? I need to run some errands. It was a test. I knew it was a test. No, Lauren, I can't. She blinked. What? I have plans. I'm meeting with the foundation board this afternoon to prepare for next month's meeting. But it's just for 2 hours. Please? I said no. Emma and Jackson looked between us, confused. Fine, Lauren said tightly. I'll take them with me. Good. That's what most parents do. She loaded the kids back in the car, clearly angry. 2 hours later, she called. That was humiliating. Dragging them through the grocery store, trying to shop while they fought in the cart. I don't know how other parents do this. They just do it, Lauren. Because they have to. Because they don't have a free babysitter. I'm your daughter. You're supposed to help me. I am helping you. I'm teaching you that you can't always rely on other people to make your life easier. even if that person is your mother. She was quiet. Then, Derek and I are having problems. What kind of problems? Money problems. His firm is struggling. We might lose the house. My instinct was to immediately offer help, to fix it, to save her. I fought that instinct. I'm sorry to hear that. We need about $50,000 to catch up on the mortgage and pay off some debts. I know you have the money now. Could you? No, Mom, please. We're desperate. Then you need to make hard choices. Sell the house, downsize, cut expenses, file for bankruptcy if you have to. But I'm not bailing you out. You'd let us lose our home? I'd let you face the consequences of your financial decisions. Lauren, you and Derek make good money. But you spend like you make twice that. The house is too expensive. The cars are too expensive. The private schools, the vacations, the lifestyle, it's all too expensive. So that's it. You have $47 million and you won't help your own daughter? I will help you. I'll help you learn to manage money better. I'll pay for you to see a financial counselor. I'll even help you make a budget, but I won't give you money to continue living beyond your means. This is because of that inheritance. It changed you. No, Lauren. It freed me to finally be honest with you. I've been enabling your bad habits for years, lending you money I knew you'd never repay, watching your kids for free so you could maintain a lifestyle you couldn't afford. I'm done with that. I can't believe you are being so cruel. I'm not being cruel. I'm being a parent, a real one, not the doormat you've gotten used to. She hung up on me. I sat there, shaking, wanting to call her back and say yes, of course, I'll help. Just tell me what you need. But I didn't. For the first time in my life, I held firm. The foundation board meeting was the following week in Boston. I drove up early, staying at the Beacon Hill house for the first time. Edward's house. My house now. It was beautiful. 4 stories, original hardwood floors, a library with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, and a rooftop terrace with views of the common. Walking through it felt like meeting Edward again. His books were still on the shelves, his reading glasses on the desk in the study, a photo of the two of us from MIT on the mantel, young, laughing, covered in lab coats. The housekeeper, Maria, had maintained everything perfectly. She'd worked for Edward for 15 years. He talked about you, she told me the first day. Not often, but sometimes I'd find him looking at old photos. He'd say, "She was the brilliant one, Maria. I just finished what we started." That made me cry. The board meeting was held at the Foundation's office in Cambridge, just a few blocks from MIT. There were 7 board members, 3 doctors, 2 research scientists, a university dean, and a bioethics professor. All of them had known Edward. All of them looked at me with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. Dr. Anderson, the chair, Dr. Reeves, began. Edward spoke highly of you. He believed you were essential to the Foundation's future. I'm honored by his confidence, I said. Though I'll admit I'm still processing everything. We've reviewed your credentials. Dr. Chen, a different Chen, no relation, said. Your MIT work was impressive, but you've been out of active research for 3 decades. How do you plan to evaluate cutting-edge grant proposals? By doing what I've always done, asking questions, reading extensively, consulting with experts. I may not have been in a lab for 30 years, but I still understand scientific method. I can still evaluate whether research is sound. The Foundation's reputation depends on funding meaningful work, another board member said. Not pet projects or vanity research. I understand that, and I take it seriously. The skepticism was clear. They thought I was Edward's sentimental final gesture, a woman with outdated credentials playing at science. I'd have to prove them wrong. The first grant proposal they gave me to review was dense 1-2 pages of technical research about using CRISPR technology for cellular repair in neurodegenerative diseases. I spent 3 days reading it, making notes, cross-referencing studies, remembering how to think like a scientist. It was exhilarating. At the next board meeting, I presented my analysis. The methodology is sound, I said. But the sample size is too small to draw meaningful conclusions. They're also not accounting for potential off-target effects of the CRISPR modifications. I recommend requesting a revised proposal with a larger cohort and more comprehensive safety analysis before we consider funding. The board members looked surprised. That's exactly the concern I had, Dr. Reeves admitted. I wasn't sure if you'd catch it. I may be rusty, I said, but I'm not incompetent. Dr. Chen smiled slightly. Welcome back to research, Dr. Anderson. I stayed in Boston for 2 weeks, diving into foundation work, reading proposals, meeting with researchers, attending seminars at MIT and Harvard. It felt like coming home to a place I'd forgotten existed. My brain woke up. The part of me that had been dormant for 30 years stretched and yawned and remembered how to be curious again. One evening, I was on the rooftop terrace, drinking wine and watching the sunset, when Patricia called. How are you settling in? It's surreal. Good, but surreal. I have some news. Your house in Cape Cod got 3 offers, all above asking. One couple is offering $485,000 cash, quick close. That was fast. It's a seller's market. Should I accept? I thought about that house, all the memories tied to it. Raising 3 kids, Robert's heart attack in the bedroom, Thanksgiving dinners, countless hours of free babysitting. Yes, I said, accept it. You sure? That's a big step. I'm sure. That house represents who I was. I'm someone different now. After we hung up, I called Brian. I sold the house. Wow, okay. Are you moving to Boston full-time? Yes. The foundation work is here. My new life is here. I'm happy for you, Mom. Really. Thank you. Brian, I want you to know I'm not abandoning you kids. I'm just choosing myself for the first time in decades. I know, and honestly, it's good for us. We relied on you too much. We need to figure out our own lives. How's Kristen handling it? She's adjusting. It's hard for her to accept that you won't be available whenever she wants, but she's starting to hire actual babysitters. It's good for her too. And the kids? They miss you. Sophie asked when you're coming back to visit. My heart ached. I miss them too. But I need this, Brian. I need to remember who I am. I get it. Just don't forget about us completely, okay? Never. Lauren didn't call for 3 weeks. When she finally did, her voice was small. Mom? Hi, sweetheart. We sold the house. We're downsizing to a smaller place. Derek's looking for a new job. We put the kids in public school. How do you feel about that? Honestly? Terrified, but also relieved. Like we've been running on this hamster wheel for years, trying to keep up with the Joneses, and now we can just stop. That's good, Lauren. I'm sorry for the things I said about you being cruel. You weren't cruel. You were right. Thank you for saying that. Can I come visit you? In Boston? I want to see where you're living, what you're doing. I want to know you, Mom. The real you. I'd like that. She visited the following weekend. I showed her the Beacon Hill house, watched her eyes widen at the elegance of it. Mom, this is incredible. It was Edward's. He took good care of it. We walked to the foundation office. I showed her the grant proposals I was reviewing, explained the research. I don't understand half of this, she admitted, but you're glowing when you talk about it. I've never seen you like this. Like what? Alive, passionate, like you actually care about what you're doing instead of just going through the motions. That night, we had dinner at a nice restaurant in the North End. Tell me about Edward, Lauren said. Really tell me. Who was he to you? So I did. I told her about the late nights in the lab, the intellectual chemistry, the way we pushed each other to think bigger. Did you love him? Yes, but differently than I loved your father. Robert was my partner in life, building a home, raising you kids, creating a family. Edward was my partner in mind. We challenged each other intellectually in ways I've never experienced with anyone else. Do you wish you'd stayed with him instead of marrying Dad? No, because then I wouldn't have you. But I do wish I'd found a way to keep both the intellectual life and the family life. I thought I had to choose. I was wrong. Women today don't have to choose as much. I know. That makes me happy. I hope Emma grows up knowing she can be anything she wants. Scientist, mother, both, neither. Whatever makes her happy. Lauren reached across the table and took my hand. I'm proud of you, Mom. Coming from her, that meant everything.